Alright, let's dive into something that's been buzzing in the fintech world lately, the introduction of merchant discount rate, MDR, on UPI transactions. Now, if you're like me and you've been following the digital payment space, this is a pretty big deal. But here's the thing, it's not just about the numbers. It's about what this means for the big players like PhonePe, Google Pay, and Paytm, and why smaller competitors might be feeling the heat. So, let's break it down. First off, what's MDR? In simple terms, it's the commission businesses pay to banks for processing digital transactions. Now, UPI, which has been a game changer in India's digital payments landscape, is finally getting an MDR. And this is where it gets interesting. The top three players, PhonePe, Google Pay, and Paytm, are poised to benefit the most. Why? Because they've already got the scale, the infrastructure, and the partnerships. Personally, I think this is a classic case of the rich getting richer. What makes this really interesting is that these companies have already invested heavily in merchant acquisition, and now they're set to reap the rewards. But here's the kicker, smaller players might struggle to keep up. They don't have the same negotiating power with banks, and that's a huge disadvantage. Now, let's talk numbers for a second. The MDR is expected to be between 25 and 30 basis points, which could generate anywhere from 13,500 rupees crore to 16,000 rupees crore annually for the ecosystem. That's a massive pie, and the big three are in prime position to grab the largest slices. PhonePe and Paytm could earn around 700 rupees crore each, while Google Pay might pocket around 500 rupees crore. What many people don't realize is that this revenue isn't just extra cash, it's going straight to the bottom line, as Paytm's CEO Vijay Shekhar Sharma pointed out. That's a significant boost for these companies. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. The UPI ecosystem is unique compared to traditional card networks. In the card world, issuing banks take the lion's share of the MDR revenue, around 80%. But with UPI, the remitter banks, or customer account holding institutions, are likely to get around 60 to 65%. The real winners here are the merchant acquirers, the top UPI apps and payment gateway firms. This is a big shift, and it's one that favors companies like PhonePe, Paytm, and Google Pay, who have been instrumental in expanding UPI's reach. Now, let's zoom out for a second. UPI isn't just a payment method, it's a phenomenon. It dominates India's digital payments landscape, accounting for 89% of all transactions. Every month, it processes over 23 billion transactions worth nearly 30 rupees lakh crore. That's mind-blowing. And with MDR coming into play, the stakes are higher than ever. But here's the question, is this a fair game? Smaller UPI apps are already at a disadvantage when it comes to merchant acquisition and negotiating with banks. This MDR structure could widen the gap even further. From my perspective, this raises a deeper question about competition and fairness in the fintech space. One thing that immediately stands out is the role of PSP banks, the banks that partner with UPI apps to connect to the network. These banks are likely to get around 10% of the MDR revenue, which is significant. But again, the big players have stronger relationships with these banks, giving them an edge. It's a bit like a snowball effect. The more dominant you are, the more advantages you accumulate. Now, let's talk about what this means for the future. UPI started as a person-to-person money transfer platform, but merchant payments now make up 64% of all UPI transactions. That's a massive shift, and it's one that these companies have capitalized on. But as MDR rolls out, we are likely to see even more innovation and competition in this space. Personally, I'm curious to see how smaller players will adapt. Will they find new ways to compete, or will they get left behind? In my opinion, the introduction of MDR on UPI is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's a much-needed revenue stream for companies that have invested heavily in the ecosystem. On the other hand, it risks creating a two-tier system where the big players dominate, and everyone else struggles to keep up. What this really suggests is that the fintech landscape in India is still evolving, and the rules of the game are far from set in stone. So, here's my closing thought: as we watch this space unfold, let's keep an eye on how smaller players respond. Will they innovate, collaborate, or fade away? And more importantly, what does this mean for consumers? Because at the end of the day, it's not just about who makes the most money, it's about who delivers the best value. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below.